Good afternoon, teachers and other employees of the Marion County School System. Thank you for taking this time to come and visit with me. I'd like to keep this as informal as I possibly can. I've already shared with you that I'd really prefer being down there on the floor with you, but I have been sent up here to the stage to do my duty, so that's where I'll be. I'd like to think that this is the first of many opportunities that I'll get to have the chance to come out and visit with you personally and to see what you do in your classrooms on the job each and every day. I don't get that many of an opportunities to do that, and I certainly am going to work on that. So welcome back from spring break. Welcome to Florida testing season. You know it's here upon us, and I know you've got your kids ready and you're all excited to be here. Ha ha, yeah, you're excited to be here. You can, I appreciate that. I'm going to be doing a relatively simple PowerPoint presentation today. You can follow along with me. I'll do mostly talking up here, and you don't have a whole lot to read. And I have to tell a story on myself that 17 years ago, when I became the principal of Forest High School, I was there for the summer getting ready, and I was told that, George, we're going to make it so you just really knock the top off on your first faculty meeting with all the faculty members there. And I said, okay, I've got my notes and I've got my brand new forest green blazer. What are you talking about? And this person said to me, you're going to do a PowerPoint presentation. And I looked at her and I said, a power what? And that was 17 years ago. You use them in your classrooms each and every day, but I do not use them very often, and I've had help putting this one together also, and I appreciate that. This event this afternoon is not rehearsed. I did practice a little bit this morning. I had about 200 of your colleagues meet with me at the Forest High School auditorium this morning, and then we have one more presentation at 4 o'clock this afternoon. As I've already announced, we will be videoing this for those who could not attend this afternoon. I'd like to thank the Westport facility, Jane Elspelman and her administrators, for welcoming us here today, for her technical department for helping us tape today's program, and for providing for us this very nice venue, and also thank our TV guys also that are doing this. And a special thanks goes out to our Golden Apple Teachers Academy. You may have seen some of them standing in the back in their black blazers. They're going to be walking around in a few minutes, and if you have any questions, they'll be walking around passing out some blank cards for you to visit or to write down your questions. Easy ones only, please. And then we'll do that question and answer period near the end. Our format today will be pretty simple. I'll talk for a few minutes, share some information about the school system, from my perspective. We'll have a time where we can gather some of your questions if you have any, and then we'll have that question and answer period right after that. The first thing I'd like to talk about is something that's very, very important to me, and that is team building. And as a teacher and as an administrator throughout my entire career, I've been very fortunate to be the member of very good and effective teams, and I know that you are too. I've very seldom done anything by myself that was worth a hoot when you think about it. We have to work together, and I have created what I think is a very good team that will help lead this district. And I want to talk a little bit about this team, and I'll introduce these folks as I come to their names. First person I'd like you to welcome is Rick Langford. Rick is sitting down in front. Rick, would you stand up? Rick is going to be our Deputy Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Rick and I began our teaching career at Lake Worth High School about 30-some years ago. We don't like to talk about the date. We taught together at Lake Worth High School, and then we've mirrored each other's career as we've gone through the administrative ranks. I had the opportunity to work with Rick when he was the assistant principal at Forest High School. Then he replaced me at Forest High School as principal, and then went to serve at Vanguard High School, and is currently going to be working on our staff and a very valuable part of our district team. The next person I'd like to introduce is Chester Gregory. Chester, would you stand, please? Likewise, Chester Gregory and I have come through the ranks together. We both started in the late 70s. Chester spent a lot of his career in the north end of the county, in the North Marion area. And Chester also wears the military hat. You may have heard that before. Chester was a member of our reserves for a number of years, a weekend warrior, then a week warrior, then a month warrior, then gone 6 months, but always came back and do a fantastic job. And Chester, we thank you for your service to our country. The next individual is Teresa Boston Ellis. Teresa, would you stand, please? Now, this is a lady you have to be nice to, because Teresa in our business services, she manages our checkbook for us. Payroll is under her jurisdiction. And incidentally, everybody got their paycheck in January with a brand new office system and a brand new business system that Teresa and her staff and many in our district spent the entire Christmas vacation working. So we appreciate that. Teresa has helped me deliver what I promised and will continue to promise, and that is to deliver to you, our employees, and to our community a transparent accounting of our entire budgeting process. This is very, very important. We don't need to have any secrets from each other, and we will not as long as I have an opportunity to serve as your superintendent. We're going to be as transparent as possible. We share this information with each other. We share it with you, and we will continue to do that. And I thank Teresa for helping me along along that journey. Next member I'd like to introduce you to is Lisa Krasalka. Lisa, down front. Lisa is our Executive Director of Human Resources. Lisa comes to us as formerly the principal of Bellevue Middle School. Prior to that, assistant principal at Bellevue Middle School. Prior to that, dean at Bellevue Middle School. Prior to that, you get my drift. We got Teresa out of Bellevue Middle School after she's been trained appropriately, and she's doing a great job in HR for us, and we thank her for what she's doing there. My comrade for the last 7 years, Julie Shealy. Would you stand, please, Julie? Julie is staying in her position as Executive Director of School Development and Evaluation. This position, again, was created about 8 years ago by our school board to assist the superintendent as we monitored our schools and worked directly with our principals. I explained it to my mother, who is a retired educator, as that we serve as the liaison between the school district and the school through the principal and his or her staff. Julie will continue in that role, and we'll be adding some other folks to help her in that capacity also. Our next person on our core team is Mark Vianello. Mark, would you stand? Mark has been serving as our Executive Director of Student Services and will continue in that capacity. ESE had a big meeting this morning with assistant principals for discipline, MTSS system. Mark is over there in Hillcrest with about 100 portables and a whole bunch of folks that help make our school system run as smooth as it can. And Mark, we thank you for the position you're doing. And then the other area I want to talk a little bit about is something you may have heard about, and I certainly hope you've heard about this, but we have actually merged 3 very, very important departments here in our curriculum delivery. We had a very good elementary department. We had a very good secondary education department and a good staff development department. But we found, and perhaps you did too, that often those 3 groups were not talking to each other. And so we rearranged everything. We now have an elementary curriculum person sitting in an office with a secondary curriculum person sitting next to a staff developer. And they're actually sharing ideas, and they understand how things at elementary school impact secondary school and how professional development needs to work as far as working with secondary students and then elementary students. And that merger, I think, is really the cornerstone of what we're trying to do here to help you become a more effective instructor in your class. The folks that are involved in that, one of them is not here today, and her name is Pam Roberts. Pam is having an extended spring break. She's actually celebrating the fact she got married on Easter Sunday, and she'll join us later on this week. But Pam Roberts is going to be the Executive Director coordinating that area. The next person that is here today is Anna Deweese. Anna, would you please stand? Anna comes to us from Fessenden Elementary, where she was principal for 3 or 4 years, and prior to that worked at Howard Middle School as an assistant principal and teacher and dean at Howard Middle School. She brings a real strong and a very important for my administration a look at elementary education, and she's going to carry that torch very effectively for us. And the third person in this arena is Donna Otzel. Donna, would you stand? Donna, also working in K-12 academic services. I guess I should say that Pam brings the middle school connection to this, Anna, the elementary, and Donna, the secondary or the high school arena. Donna and I first met a number of years ago when she was a teacher at Vanguard High School. And these 3 folks work together with this new department, K-12 academic services, are doing absolutely marvelous things to help you to be able to help your children in your classrooms each and every day. And what they're doing is powerful over there, and I hope you get an opportunity to experience that. I graduated as a history major from Valdosta State College, and I wasn't a very good history teacher, but I think it's important that I give you a little bit of a history about me for those of you who don't know. I am a product of the Marion County Public School System. Both of my teachers, both my parents, were teachers here in the Marion County School System. I attended Central Elementary School, Osceola Junior High when we had the junior high system, and graduated from Forest High School in 1972. 2 years after that, I graduated from our local community college and went to Valdosta State College right across the Georgia line. That's about as far north as I was willing to venture at that time. And when I got my degree at Valdosta, I also fell in love with Barbara, and Barbara and I have been married now since 1977. We have two beautiful daughters that were products of our school system, and I thank you for the work that you did in working with my daughters, because they have now become very successful students or employees on their own right. My career, when I came back to Marion County, I taught at Lake Weir High School, then became an assistant principal at Dunellen High School, then an assistant principal at Vanguard. Then I had the opportunity to go to Sunrise Elementary School and become a principal there, and that was a joy. It lasted only 15 months because Superintendent John Smith said, back to the big kids, and I went to Forest High School, where I served as principal for 9 years. And now for the past 7.5 years, I've served at the district office, again, working with Mrs. Shealy as a liaison between the superintendent and our schools. I'm very proud of what we do, and that's why I say that, because I'm very proud of what you do in our school system. I think we have a great school system, and I'm excited to be a part of it with you. But we have made some changes, and we need to ask ourselves, why did we make change? And then, where is Marion County Public Schools today? And then the next question, of course, is where are we headed? I think it's important that we leverage specific measurement devices to plot our course. And George Tomyn, for those of you who know him, is not a data person, but I understand the importance of measurement, of accurate data to help us along this journey. And I'd like to share some things with you that were a little concerning to me, or quite concerning to me, and I think you will see that also. We certainly use the data that's available to us. I'm not arguing whether FCAT is good or bad. I'm not going to argue that with you today. That's not important. But the message is that we need to look at this data together and see what it reveals about our school system. If you can look at the top line, that purple line, that is the state of Florida. And what you're looking at is grade 3 through 10 reading. It's a combination of all of our test scores from 2010 to 2012. The point of this slide, of course, is to see that Marion County, essentially, the lower line, has mimicked or modeled, followed the state changes, but we've always been just a little bit below. If you look at the next slide, we're talking about math, those same grades 3 through 8, just about the same thing. A couple of times that Marion County was above, but I start to look at these and I said, I believe that our children are better than this. I know our teachers are better than this. Another slide, again, reflective as we look at science results just for the last few years. In 2006, just below the state average. And then finally, our writing results. And that big plummet, of course, happened all over the state. Now, you know this data. You work with data each and every day. You follow your children's progress in your classes, whether it be on FCAT data or on what you do in your classroom. But I think we do better than this. I think we're doing better, and we have to do better for our students. So where are we headed, and then how are we going to possibly get to where our line is above the state as a county? Yours as an individual teacher may be above it already. We want everybody in Marion County to be above that line. I think that when you plot your course, it's very important to have some sort of a plan. And our district is working on a strategic plan, and two things are going on right now. By law, our school board must have a strategic plan, and I am working with them, and they are working with the Florida School Boards Association to come up with a strategic plan. And like most things, the school board says, okay, Mr. Superintendent, you give us an idea where you want to go, we'll help you tweak it. And so we've had the opportunity to work on something. I'm going to show you in just a minute what that is. We've also gone through several exercises over the last 3 months with your principals in which we have asked them to identify needs coming from you, to identify the needs, any barriers we might have to overcoming those needs, and we've worked with them, and it's eventually going to be trickling down to you actually in the classroom. But this is a document that I'd like you to look at for just a second, if you would. This is what I envision. We need to have the big word drafts stamped across the top of this. And you don't need to worry about the fine print on either side in the left-hand column or in the right-hand column, but I want you to focus on the middle section for just a second. I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that what happens in preschool impacts what happens in elementary school. What happens in elementary school impacts what happens in middle school, and then what happens in high school, and then to get to that graduation rate, and then to send our kids off into the world of work or to four-year degrees or technical school, the military, or whatever they might want to do. And I think this particular strategic plan, this visual that you see in front of you, really represents what we're trying to do in our K-12 academic services, is to get everybody on the same page, pushing our children toward a successful career, a successful time here in Marion County Public Schools. You know that we do have successful students in our school system because they come back and tell you. I know they do, because people are always telling me and thanking me for the job that our teachers have done in our school system. We just need to get everybody on the same page and understanding the importance of how this is it's a 13-year plan so we can make our students be successful. Just look in the mirror, folks. I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that our teachers are the key to make this plan successful. Yes, I told you that our school board was working on a strategic plan. And yes, I said our principals are working on it, and it's going to trickle down to you over the next few months, because we have to create an environment in which we are supportive of what you do in the classroom each and every day, because you make it happen where you are. I believe we have some challenges. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's a lot on your plate and a lot on our plate right now. You know that we are all experiencing being trained and or retrained in the Common Core curriculum and the Common Core delivery system for our students. I think it is good stuff. It gives us the opportunity to be able to compare ourselves with other school districts and other states in an appropriate fashion. When you think about it right now, let's compare the state of Florida with the state of Wisconsin. State of Florida has tourism and orange trees, let's say. Wisconsin has wonderful cheese. Now come on, how in the world do you compare? And that's exactly what we're doing now with our different curriculums and different assessments that we're giving our students all across the United States. Once we all adopt the Common Core and look at this, this will give us a better idea about where you are and where we are. And I'm convinced also that if you use those great strategies that our K-12 academic services is providing for you through great professional development, you're going to see Marion County scores be above those scores of the state. Second challenge we have is resource management or budget. And I tease Teresa all the time. She's a welcome addition to our team. She's sitting at our table understanding what's going on with our curriculum issues. She's here today. She wants to be a part of this education system, even though her strength is managing the budget. But and she's a great part of this. And she, again, gives us great, transparent, good information. We are very encouraged as a school district and a state, and you should be also, with the financial attention that the state is giving to public education. Depends on when you talk to somebody, but anywhere between $1 and $1.3 billion of our state revenue is going to be increased to $1.3 billion to education throughout the state. There's some disagreement as to exactly how that money is going to come down. The legislature with the the Senate plan and the House plans a little different than the governor's plan, but we're very, very encouraged, and we think that it's going to be a good budget, at least compared to the recent few years here in Marion County. And the other big challenge we have is something that you have a challenge with each and every day, and that's time. When do we get trained for Common Core? How do we manage our budget? When do we have time to do that? When do I have time to clean my house? Someone this morning said, "What'd you do over spring break?" And I said, "I went out of town with my wife." "What'd you do?" She said, "I cleaned house. I don't have time to do anything else during my regular day because I'm so busy working to help our kids." We'll learn to manage that time. And I think those are our three big challenges for us. I think you bring to the table, along with me, something very, very important, and that is relationships, communication, and creating trust. And this is the last slide I'm going to show. We're not going to get any more detail with this one. I want to talk about these three things for just a minute, but our Golden Apple Academy folks are going to be walking down the aisles. And if you have a specific question as I go over this last slide, just raise your hand. They'll slip you a piece of paper and come back and collect that from you in just a moment. But building relationships, you know how important it is. You know how important it is for you to work with your students and your colleagues and your administrators and the parents of your children. And this is what I think is a strength that I might have, is working with people. And I want to do everything I can about help you build relationships with your constituents. This is hugely important. This meeting today is hopefully addressing the second bullet, and that is enhancing communication. I like being around you guys. I want to be around you guys. I want to be supportive of what you're doing because, thirdly, I want to create trust. And if we can't work together in a trusting environment, we're not going to be successful in implementing the Common Core. We're not going to be successful in trying to raise the standards of our school system and do a better job. Marion County is a great place to live. It's a great place to work, and we have an absolutely great school system because of what you do. But I think we can do a little better. And that's the message that I wanted to bring to you today. It's very important. I know it's important that you're here today. You feel as well as I do that this is very important that we all work together on this. I want to thank you for being with me today. I have some questions left over from this morning. So as our golden apples are walking around, if I can, I'd probably just go ahead and like to read a question or two from this morning. And these are legitimate questions, and I think they're pretty good. But if you have a question, again, these two folks walking around, please get them. We won't screen them. We'll send them straight down here to me. Here's a question that was asked this morning, if you're interested. Is it possible to get the random drug testing for student athletes and student activities restored? This is our situation a number of years ago. We did have drug testing for student athletes. We expanded that to include club members, band members, and things like that. And in the recent budget cuts, we did eliminate that program. My understanding is the program cost about $115,000 to $120,000. I am in favor of doing that. As a high school principal at the time it was implemented, I was concerned about that program, but I found that it was a great program for us. And what it did was it enabled a student athlete or a student to say no. It empowered that student. If he or she was tempted on a Friday night or a Saturday night to do something that they shouldn't be doing, whether it was drug or alcohol related, they had the opportunity to say, nope, I'm not going to do that because I'm playing baseball, I'm a cheerleader, I'm on Key Club, I'm in the band, and I don't want to risk being screened out of being able to participate. So we'll try to put that back in and as we proceed. All right, now these are your questions. We'll see what we can do. Okay, when evaluating the shared school teachers and the possibility of redistributing the positions in schools, who is our contact person to offer advice about pairings? Okay, I'm sorry. This is in reference to art, music, and media. All right, this is a great question because I had this question earlier today also. This involves what we have done for the last 2 or 3 years with elementary art, music, media specialists. And a few years ago, we actually dabbled with this in our secondary schools. When, in the past 3 years, when an art elementary or elementary music or media person retired or left the school system, we did not replace that person. And we took another person on the totem pole of experience, if you will, and we told that student, that teacher, they then needed to split that position. So the question is, are you still going to do that this year? I'll go back and answer that this way. George Tomyn is committed to the fact that art, music, and media are very, very important things that we have in our school system. Whether they stay in the same delivery form, I'm not sure, but there will be art, music, and media in all of our schools. The second part of that question is, and I'm assuming it's probably coming from someone who is in that arena, who do I talk to about this? If you're talking about art, music, or media, Miriam Needham is certainly your contact person in that. But I want to assure you that you will be part of the solution this year, and you won't be called in on a last-minute ditch effort and told you're going to be shipped somewhere else. You've got 30 minutes to make a decision. I thought that's unconscionable and will not happen under my administration. Can you tell us about any teacher cuts that may take place? Well, I certainly don't want to do that at all. We are trying to do everything we can in our power to make a pledge to meet class size. And class size, of course, is in the core classes, and we're doing everything we can to do that. Again, I can share with you that we're encouraged about the words that come from our state legislature. Any financer or any funds that do come down from our legislature, of course, must be bargained. Your representatives of the MEA and MESP are here today, and you know that our finances and our salaries and things are negotiated, as well as any kind of layoffs or cuts. Okay? What is your assessment of teacher morale and job satisfaction, and how can you as superintendent affect it? I can tell you what some of you, I won't say many of you, but I will say some of you tell me that teacher morale is low and teacher job satisfaction, I'll say teacher job satisfaction is okay. It may not be high, but I think you enjoy what you're doing or you wouldn't be here today. But the teacher morale issue, I do believe that your morale is a little low. And what can I do as superintendent? Well, this is the first thing I want to do is to share with you that I'm willing to come out with you and visit with you and try to answer tough questions like this in front of you. How's that? So I want to communicate with you. I think from an organizational standpoint, we put together a team that can address our needs, and I want you to be behind us, because I can assure you that we will be behind you in supporting your moves. What will the assessment measure be in place to hold teachers accountable for student growth when Common Core is fully in place? Okay, when Common Core is fully in place, students will be assessed by the PARCC assessment. We know that. There's a lot of discussion as to whether PARCC will be administered via computers or via paper and pencil, and it really doesn't matter. We know we want to go to computer assessment because we get quicker and faster results from that, but we also know we don't have the resources to adequately equip all of our schools for great computer assessment. But we know we're headed toward PARCC, and hold the teachers accountable for student growth when Common Core is fully in place. I think what this question is meaning right now is that what student data will be used? Will it simply be a Common Core assessment? Will it go back to something like the old competency test? No. Will it be like FCAT? Perhaps. I think it'll be even a little more sophisticated. And you may be venturing, even though you didn't say this, but there may be something about the value-added model in here, and that how much a student grows under your particular tutelage over a course of a year's worth of time. And I think I can answer it in reference to VAM. I'll be happy to say that I believe that we're getting much more scientific and much more sophisticated in assessing children and using that data. I don't think it's fair, I do not think it's fair, that over 60% of our employees are being given a VAM score based on the fact that 40% of our teachers had direct interaction with those students, and only 40%. I think those kindergarten teachers that don't have a VAM scores are those AP physics teachers at the other end of the spectrum. We need to develop a good assessment program for them. I'll go on to say that I've never met an effective teacher who is afraid of a good evaluation system. Student results and student assessment is certainly a part of that evaluation system. Is it possible to reinstate the activity bus program, especially for far out schools? Far out, I guess, means out of town, not far out. We do have activity buses now at some of our schools. Perhaps the school where you are or maybe you're talking about an after school, after the activity in the evening, a 7 o'clock bus to run the basketball and the football players home. I don't have an answer for that one right now. I do know that I would want you to talk to your administrators about that and bring it to my attention. Teresa Boston Ellis is cringing right now. I'm not making a promise that we're going to reactivate a program that we cannot afford. We're not going to do that. I do think it's important that our kids are involved in activities after school and in supplementary activities, and I appreciate those people who, again, sponsor those programs, and we'll certainly want it to be available to as many kids as possible. Is there money in the budget for our step up, or I guess it's our step increase in pay, or even getting a raise? We don't have our budget yet. And Teresa's breathing a sigh of release now that I didn't say anything about that. Again, I'll say we are encouraged. We believe that we're going to be getting more money from the state, but I cannot make a commitment to saying what that raise or step, whatever it might be this year. Certainly that'll be involved in the negotiation and process. Oh, here's a tough one. I'm going to have to get some help on this one. Since the writing scores have dropped so dramatically, if you were to focus on a particular study, what would you choose as an important means to correct that problem? Yes. That would be my answer. I do know that the more writing you do, the better writer you become. So I think our writing needs to be implemented across the curriculum, and not just in English classes, not just in social studies classes, not just in science classes, but in all of our classes. And PE teachers, that includes you, because I've seen some of you do writing activities with your students. So I don't think we would need to focus on any particular subject area, but to certainly emphasize that writing across the curriculum is very, very important. Hope I didn't muddle that one too much. Will part of your strategic plan include telling employees their salaries at the beginning of the year? No. And I say that with a smile. Our strategic plan guides the direction that we want our students to go and how we want you to work together. I would love to be able to tell you that contract negotiations are settled before the beginning of the year, and our MEA and MESP representatives that are here today would agree with me on that. And we're going to do everything in our power to work hard and charge towards settling that salary negotiations before the school year starts. Do you have any plans to privatize any support departments? Question, of course, follows the fact that we have privatized some of our custodial areas. We've talked about, as a district, privatizing transportation. None of those, or expanding those, is not necessarily on my agenda right now. I'm not interested in privatizing our transportation fleet. I don't think that it's in the best interest of our students in getting them to and from school. I'll say that's my feeling today. If the economy should go in the tank again, and if we should have any other huge economical challenges, certainly we're going to look at everything possible. But right now, I know that our employees working on our campuses, working with our children, do a better job than when we contract out. And excellent question. At the present, many middle schools do not have regular support for ESE or ESOL in science or social studies. Can this situation be reversed? Yes, and I'll look at these people over here at this team, and we'll put this one on the pocket. There's one we'll work on today. Certainly, we do have an inclusion program, not only for ESE, but ESOL students, and why it's not in science or social studies at your particular school, or maybe you just don't know that it is. I'm going to set this card aside over here, and if you have a particular interest, if that's your question, if you grab one of these curriculum folks down here, Mrs. Otso, Ms. DeWeese, Mr. Langford down here before you leave today, we'll try to find out some more about that issue for you. How realistic is a 10-day count before Labor Day? Our school population increases significantly after positions were lost. Okay, the 10-day count again is a kind of a benchmark plan. We staff our schools based on where we think our students are going to be right now. or where they're going to be on the first day of school, and if they do not show up, then we transfer teachers to other areas. We are really pretty sophisticated on assigning our teachers and predicting the number of students. Mr. Tony Burke and his department has done a great job over the years. Thank you. Has done a great job over the years predicting our students. We just don't know exactly where they're going to be all the time. So we will continue to do the best job we possibly can. We understand that we don't want to transfer teachers in or out, because once they establish relationships with teachers and students, we know that's a huge issue. But that is something that we are constantly addressing. The question, we're getting pretty specific here. We have to shut these questions off, I think, Ms. McMillan. Will you allow transfers of special areas, it says special area teachers, to a position of a retiring teacher during the transfer period? Deb Miller is not here today, but there will be a transfer period. And if you were certified, you would have the opportunity to request a transfer to any certification that you might be certified for. If you have specific questions on how that's going to work, to my knowledge, we haven't even set the specific date yet on when that's going to be, but it will be coming up in the near future. But Deb Miller would be your contact. If you can't get through to Deb, we can get with Lisa Krasalka in our HR department. Any thoughts about switching school starting times of elementary back as they were before? And I guess your question means that high schools used to start at 7:30 and end at 2:30, and then we had practices all afternoon. Elementary school started at 9 and ended at 4. Well, we had a big deal when we changed the times back over, and there are two big deals. First of all, elementary teachers realized it was really a good thing to have their kids before lunch, and the longer the time they had them before lunch, the better their kids did. And you can see our county test scores went up as a result of that. I think that goes across the board. Everybody does a lot better before lunch. Whether you're a teacher sitting here afternoon listening to me, or whether you're a student in second grade, you do better before lunchtime. I will share with you also that when we switched our times, because of the way our transportation buses are routed, it would take more buses because of the greater distance that our high schools travel for turnaround time. So we've actually saved a great deal of money in addition to enhancing the educational times of elementary students. What we'd love to have is the ability to have everybody start whenever they wanted or at the same time. And we're not there, and that's not going to happen. The state funds about 50 to 55% of our transportation needs right now. The state simply does not fund us at a 100%. And we beg, borrow, and steal to get the dollars we have to do the job that we have to transport your students safely to you now. I do not think that changing times is going to come at any time unless there's a huge windfall of money. I'll have to come back to that one, excuse me. I can't read the writing. What is the point of salary negotiation when the county ultimately gets its way? Whew. Well, I do know that I've had the opportunity to sit in on salary negotiations as a member of the administrative team, and I know that there's a lot more that goes into the process than just negotiating salary. The contract is written and rewritten every 2 or 3 years, and I think the contract does a good job of protecting you and ensuring your due process. The school board, as you do know, can impose some things, and they can impose a contract and they can impose salary. I'm not going to say that because I've never been superintendent during this process. I do know that our school board will sit in executive session after getting full reports from our finance department, and we'll get the salary and the amount of money that is available to us, and that we will be given certain limits on how we can assign that money or how we can negotiate those funds. And that's what happens in the bargaining sessions that you're certainly welcome to come to. Can the school board up and impose at the end of that process? Yes, but I do think that, again, it's a good and healthy process to go through. and we're not going to impose anything until we get more information from the state in reference to the actual revenue that we will be receiving. There is a point to negotiation, though. Thank you. Will teachers have a planning period during each day without meetings scheduled? Teachers, by contract, are allotted a certain amount of planning time in each day and in each week. And if you are not receiving what you believe is the appropriate time, instead of answering a blank question like that, please see your administrator about that and explain your situation to them. Please see your union representative, and then come and tell someone at the district staff. Because in negotiations, instead of just trying to answer a blanket question like this, we always say, and I think it's appropriate that we say, where is it happening? What is the situation? Tell us the specifics. Then we will, as administrators, go out, and if it is an administrative issue, we will correct it. That's my pledge to you. Money is a problem. I know. I don't have enough of it. Our secondary students need vocational classes, live shop, and home economics. My thoughts on that. Absolutely, I can't agree with you more. But I will share with you that it's really not an issue of money as to whether these programs are available or not. The issue is that so many students need remediation based on state requirements that they're in their regular courses, English, math, science, and social studies. Then they also have to take remedial courses also. It's not a Marion County requirement, it's a state requirement. And as a result, that's why fewer students are in vocational classes. And I believe those classes are very, very important. Most of our high schools, and Rick Langford can address this, and if this is your question, please see him afterwards. Most of our high schools, I think, are doing everything they can to go back to some sort of a 7-period-a-day delivery, some sort, so they can add some electives for our students. And I think, and I can't agree with you more that those programs are important. What is your position on giving more tools for student management or discipline officers to keep my students in school rather than just suspension? Well, my position is, if hidden in this is bringing back corporal punishment, no, George Tomyn is not in favor of bringing back corporal punishment to our schools. I don't think that it is an effective tool that we use today. I think we do have some good tools in our school system. I was just stopped just a few minutes ago in the back by a teacher that I've known for many, many years. He used to work at our district office, that is now a PASS teacher at one of our local PASS sites. And this is probably one of the better things that we've added in a number of years, where we can have an in-school suspension program for elementary and middle school students, and even high school students, when the school would normally suspend a student from school. Instead of requiring that they stay home, that they can, if the parents can bring them. We'd like to expand the PASS program. I know Martin Vianello has talked to your principals about that. If you have an opportunity at your school setting in which you can volunteer a unit or a part of a unit or something like that, that we can start a PASS program, I think we do a good job with that, and certainly see Mark, and he would like to do more of those programs. I think our deans have the tools. They met this morning. If this is coming from a dean, I need to see you, because I need to know what you're talking about here. This is a chance of going to a 7-period day or a 4x4 block scheduling. 4x4 block scheduling is very expensive, but I said our high school principals are already being very creative about going to a 7-period day next year. As school closings spread throughout our country, do you feel that would be a viable solution to our budget woes, or will you consider other radical changes or changes to help boost our performance or attendance? Well, I'm not in favor of school closings necessarily. I mean, I read the horror stories about Chicago, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, in which they're closing 50 schools. That's a million student or 800,000 students in that district. And we have a couple of schools that certainly are less cost effective. Is that the right word? I won't say they're not effective at all, but they're less cost effective than some of our other schools. But I like our community schools, and if we can continue to staff them appropriately, I'd like to keep them. I'd like to keep our small schools. We did a great thing, Superintendent Yancey did an absolute great thing when he moved John McCollum to Osceola and H Street. John had the skills at middle school and elementary school that enabled him to work both campuses. It still about killed him the first year he was doing it. I'm not in favor of switching principals around to various schools. If we had to, I would certainly eliminate some other administrative positions at schools to make sure that every school and school site has a principal on site. I think that's very, very important. And this is a good question to end on, and it's, when will we get a high school in Marion Oaks? And I used to work in the Marion Oaks community at Sunrise Elementary School, and I think that is an appropriate question. But here's the way we build schools in the state of Florida. We receive specific dollars for capital projects from the state of Florida to build schools. The state of Florida is not just going to give us dollars when we think we want dollars. The state of Florida requires us to measure the number of seats that we have in all of our existing facilities. And then they add all those seats up, and currently we have, let's pick a number, we have 42,000 seats for students in Marion County. And we have 41,500 students. So the state looks at that and sees, you've got enough seats for students. Now, I'm sure the numbers are a little farther apart than that, and the state works on percentages and things like that, and we have a facilities department that manages all this. But we simply are not going to be able to get funds via the state if we don't have a need for student seats. That's not to mean that the Marion Oaks community is not deserving of a high school, because it might be. But I don't know exactly how many students live in the Marion Oaks area, but district-wide, we don't have a need. And our job is to balance our class loads. And yes, Marion Oaks students have been moved a variety of places. For some point in time, they went to Bellevue, then they all went to Dunellen, and now they're split between Westport and Dunellen. And I know it doesn't seem particularly fair for those students, but we're not in a position now to simply build a school in an area and assume that the state would fund that, because they simply will not do that. Wow. All right, you've been a great audience today, and I want to thank you for participating here. I'd like to do these more often. If you think they're worthwhile, please let me know via email or catch me in the hall as we're leaving here. These guys will be standing down here. If you've got any hard questions, I encourage you to come down and visit with them for a few minutes this afternoon. I want to thank you for participating today. Wish you a great spring and good luck with our testing season. Thank you for coming today.